Althea Merrick was the mother of George Merrick, who created Coral Gables, but she was so much more than that, and I think more than anyone, she had the greatest influence on him. Plus, in all of my research, she may be the most impressive woman I've ever, studied in Miami history. She was kind and good and brilliant and educated. She had a college degree back in a time when women didn't go to college. And she also taught art at Lebanon Valley College, where she went to school and met Solomon Merrick, George's father. She went back and taught art, and she did all of this in the community in Miami too, besides just Coral Gables.
Althea was popular and accomplished, a born leader. At college, she became a fearless orator, proud of her writing. Most of her surviving essays demonstrate her strong opinions, her positive viewpoint, and her emerging feminism.
In her paper, Women in Literature, Allie wrote, "Now that her barriers have been removed, she can, without restraint, give full scope to her intellect. What can she not achieve?"
She was very popular with people. People really, really liked her, counted on her, trusted her, and asked for her judgment. She was very close to George. I think that that was the greatest influence on him. But all of her children, she was very close to, and they were all, very close to her and counted on her. Solomon Merrick was kind of difficult. That's the father. He was clinically depressed, we'd call it today. We didn't have a name like that then. So she also covered for him. And he was a preacher, and when he was having a bad day or bad mood, she'd actually preach. So she actually preached at the Congregational Church. There's nothing she couldn't do or didn't do. And she was very artistic, and her art she sold her art. It's all over the place. It's in the house. So she wrote.
Years later, George reflected on his mother's pivotal role in the family's comfort and survival. Althea's greatest challenge, according to George, was her steady, spirited endeavor to counteract father's gloom and despair. The more she tried to soothe him, the more he brought up Grandpa Fink.
"Allie," he yelled, "you are just a female version of old Grandfather Fink, and now you are trying to make black white."
Indeed, George and his mother were like Grandpa Fink. They had a way of attracting people. Both served up a full measure of Fink charisma. They stuck together. George, her closest ally.
Grandpa Fink, who's the man over the fireplace, I always say. He was a Methodist circuit riding minister who invented Fink's magic oil, became wealthy. And Grandpa Fink encouraged them to come. See, that I found that very interesting too. Because he thought it had a future. When Solomon bought the 160 acres, the Gregory homestead, it was a homestead, he hadn't seen it. And when he came down here with George, who was a teenager, they saw the shack. And he said, "How am I going to tell my wife what I did?" So they moved into the shack. And before long, she helped add to it. And then eventually she designed the rock house in front. But part of the shack is still there in the back, in the kitchen area. I know you've seen it. And she designed it. That's what we need to remember. The Merrick house was designed by Althea. No one else. And then that influenced George to do the rock, and she named it Coral Gables, and George used that for the whole place. So I don't like it called the Merrick house. I like it called Coral Gables house, because that's what she named it. She had all these children, and there was no school. The closest school was in Coconut Grove, and that was about an hour away. So she created what she called the Guavonia School.
Althea offered the school board a log cabin on the family's homestead. But before, opening a new school required 10 students. The Merricks had only 4 eligible children. Althea trekked to neighboring farms, seeking school-age children. She promised free room and board for them during the week, the same to the teacher. Early in 1901, Guavonia School accommodated 12 students and the teacher, Ms. Winifred Cobb, all thanks to Althea's persistence and generosity.
She also worked on the Women's Club in Coconut Grove and the library, and she was very involved in everything, educational particularly. She becomes a pioneer woman. She gardens, she plants, she's amazing. That's all I can keep saying again and again because it's true. So even though she was a very rare woman to be educated as she was. That didn't slow her down for doing what she had to do for her family in the woods. She deserves to be remembered and honored for what she did in Coral Gables. It wasn't just George.
After a long illness, on February 27, 1937, Althea died at age 77. She had suffered through early deaths of sister, child, and husband, crippling and painful arthritis, homesteader, and financial hardships, yet she never lost her optimism.
The fact that she was a woman in an era where men got most of the recognition, but she was involved in everything, and she was very popular with people, and she was very kind to people. So it's just that when Coral Gables went under and George died and everything, she just got lost in time. So I'm glad she's coming back. I'm glad you're bringing her back.